Welcome to Motivational Humanity. You are not alone.
The question that changes everything: what if the thing that unsettles a narcissist the most isn't your tears, and it isn't your anger, but your quiet? What if the moment you finally stopped fighting, stopped explaining, stopped begging them to understand you, was the moment they felt the most threatened they've ever felt by you? You've probably spent years wondering what you did wrong. Why, no matter how much you changed, how much you gave, how carefully you chose your words, it was never enough. And maybe you've even thought, if I could just stop reacting, if I could just be calmer, they'd finally respect me. Well, today I want to offer you something different. Something that might actually explain why your peace, not your pain, is the one thing a narcissist cannot stand. And once you understand this, I think something in you is going to exhale for the first time in a very long time. I see you. And what you've been carrying, if you're somewhere in your 50s, 60s, or 70s, and you found yourself here today, I want you to know. I don't think that's an accident. Women your age carry something that younger women haven't yet earned, the wisdom that comes from having lived through things. You've raised children, maybe buried parents, walked through marriages, rebuilt yourself after loss. You know what it means to survive. You know what it means to keep going on days when you had absolutely nothing left. And yet, somehow, in the middle of all that wisdom, all that resilience, you ended up in a relationship or a situation that made you feel smaller than you've ever felt. That made you question your own memory, your own sanity, your own worth. Maybe it was a husband, a grown child, a sister, a close friend, someone who, the closer you got to them, the less like yourself you became. You are not confused. You are not weak. And you are most certainly not alone. What you've been through has a name, and understanding it is the first step toward getting your life, your real life, back. 5 truths about why your peace threatens them, your reaction is their fuel, and your calm is their drought. Here's the psychological truth that nobody tells you: a narcissist doesn't actually want you to be happy or miserable. What they want is to be the cause of whatever you're feeling. Think about that for a moment. Their need isn't really for love, it's for significance. And the fastest way to feel significant is to have power over someone's emotional state. When you cry because of something they said, they feel powerful. When you yell, they feel powerful. When you go cold and silent out of hurt, they feel powerful because they know they got to you. Psychologists call this narcissistic supply. It's the emotional energy that flows from other people into the narcissist, and it feeds them. Your reactions, whether positive or negative, are that supply. Now imagine a river that has always fed a town, and one day the river simply redirects. Peacefully, quietly, it doesn't dry up in anger. It just goes a different way. Suddenly, the town, which was built entirely around that water, faces a crisis it doesn't know how to handle. That is exactly what happens when you stop reacting. Your peace is the river redirecting, and it terrifies them not because they love you, but because they depended on you. Anger keeps you in the game. Peace means you've left the table. There's a game that happens in every relationship with a narcissistic person, and most of us don't even realize we're playing it. The rules are simple: they provoke, you respond. They escalate, you either fight or you fold. And as long as you're doing either fighting or folding, the game continues. They're still winning. But here's what I want you to understand. Anger is not leaving the table. Anger is pulling your chair closer. I once heard a story about a woman in her early 60s. Let's call her Margaret. She had spent 17 years in a marriage to a man who was charming to everyone outside the house and quietly cruel behind closed doors. She tried everything. She argued her case. She went to therapy alone when he refused to go. She made spreadsheets of incidents to prove to herself she wasn't imagining things. And then one day, not out of anger, but out of sheer exhaustion, she just stopped. She stopped explaining. She stopped reacting when he made his little comments at dinner. She answered his provocations with a gentle, neutral mm and went back to her book. And within 2 weeks, he was furious in a way she'd never seen before. Not because she'd done anything wrong, but because she'd done nothing at all. Her peace was a declaration. It said, I no longer need your approval to feel okay about myself. And for a narcissist, that declaration is devastating. Because what it really means is, I no longer need you. A narcissist's greatest fear is your indifference, not your anger. This one is important, so I want you to sit with it. Narcissistic personality disorder, at its psychological core, is rooted in a deep, almost unbearable shame. Underneath the grandiosity, the manipulation, the gaslighting, the control, there is a terrified self that believes, somewhere in the deep, that it is fundamentally unlovable. That if people could see all the way through them, they would leave. This is why a narcissist needs constant validation. Not because they're confident, but because they aren't. The arrogance is armor. And your anger actually confirms to them that you still care, that you're still engaged, that they still matter enough to upset you. But your peace, your genuine, settled, I wish you well and I'm going to live my life, peace, tells them the opposite. It tells them you no longer have the power to disturb my inner world. And that is the thing they cannot tolerate. Not because of love, but because it touches their deepest wound, the fear that they are irrelevant. Researcher and author Lundy Bancroft once wrote something that has stayed with me. He said that the behavior of people who control others is about power. And the moment the power dynamic shifts, everything changes. Your peace shifts the power dynamic. Permanently. They will escalate when you go quiet, and that is not your fault. I have to be honest with you about something, because I care about you and I want you to be prepared. When you start to step into your peace, when you stop reacting, start building your life back up, start taking up space again, it is very common for the narcissistic person in your life to get louder, more dramatic, more cruel or more pitiful, depending on their style. Some become aggressive. They accuse you of being cold, uncaring, a bad mother, a bad wife, a bad friend. They tell people you've changed, and they don't mean it as a compliment. Others become suddenly helpless. They get sick, or they have a crisis, or they remind you of all the things they've done for you. They turn on the charm that first drew you in. This is called a hoovering tactic, named after the vacuum brand, because they are quite literally trying to suck you back into the dynamic. And I want to say this as clearly and as gently as I can. Their escalation is not evidence that you're doing something wrong. It's evidence that you're doing something right. A wound doesn't sting most when you ignore it. It stings most when you finally start to clean it. And you, my friend, are finally cleaning the wound. The woman who knows her own worth doesn't need to defend it. She doesn't need to prove it. She simply lives it. And that quiet, grounded living is the most powerful statement you will ever make. Peace is not something you perform. It's something you grow back into. I think there's a version of this conversation that goes wrong, and I want to make sure we don't go there. Because sometimes, when women hear, stop reacting, they take it to mean become stone, become unfeeling, build a wall so high that nothing gets through, not the hurt, but also not the joy. And that is not what I'm talking about. Real peace, the kind that genuinely unsettles a narcissist, isn't a performance of detachment. It isn't stonewalling or punishing silence or cold indifference worn like a costume. A narcissist can feel the difference between a woman who is pretending not to care and a woman who has genuinely moved toward herself. What I'm talking about is something more like coming home. Slowly, imperfectly, day by day. Coming back to the woman you were before this relationship told you who you were allowed to be. Maybe she liked to paint. Maybe she had opinions she used to speak freely. Maybe she laughed loudly and didn't check afterward to see if it was appropriate. Maybe she had friendships she let with her, because it was easier to keep the peace at home. Reclaiming those things, one small choice at a time, is what peace actually looks like. And it grows, slowly at first, and then all at once. This kind of peace has nothing to do with the narcissist. It's not even about them. It's about you finally being willing to be your own safe place. A word about who you actually are. I want to close by saying something I need you to hear. Not just understand, but actually hear in whatever part of yourself still needs permission to believe it. You have spent years, maybe decades, being told, directly or indirectly, that your needs were too much, that your feelings were too dramatic, that your memory was faulty, that if you just did things differently, if you were just a little more patient, a little more forgiving, a little less sensitive, things would be better. None of that was true. You were not too much, you were in the wrong room. And here is what I know about women who have been through what you have been through. They come out of it with a kind of wisdom that cannot be taught. They know, in their bones, in a way that no book can fully capture, what it costs to lose yourself. And that knowledge makes the returning, when it happens, so deliberate, so intentional, so real. You are not starting over. You are starting from experience. And there is an enormous difference. Your peace is not a weapon. It is not revenge. It is not a strategy. It is simply you, claiming the space you were always entitled to. The space to think your own thoughts, feel your own feelings, live a life that feels like yours again. And yes, it will unsettle the people who needed you to be unsettled. But that is okay. That is, in fact, exactly okay. Because you did not come this far, survive this much, and grow this wise to keep shrinking yourself for people who were never going to grow alongside you. Your peace is not the end of the story. It is the beginning of the one you actually want to tell. Before you go, I need to hear from you if something in this video touched something in you. If any part of it made you feel seen, or named something you've been carrying that you didn't quite have words for, I'd love to know. Down in the comments, type these words from me. I am reclaiming my peace. Those 4 words are more than an algorithm signal. Though yes, they do help this video reach other women who need it. They are a declaration. A small, quiet, powerful act of choosing yourself. And I want to witness it. If you have a friend, a sister, a daughter, a woman you love who you think is in the middle of this kind of relationship, please share this video with her. You may not have the words yourself. Let this be the words. And if you're new here, welcome. There's a whole community of women on this channel who are choosing, day by day, to come back to themselves. I'd love for you to be part of it. Hit subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Take good care of yourself. You've earned it.